America is going broke. So says the people running one of the largest banks and investment firms here in the United States, J.P. Morgan Chase. Several times this week, during interviews, we have heard from both Jamie Dimon, the CEO of J.P. Morgan, and, of course, David Kelly, the asset management chief global strategist for J.P. Morgan, tell us that we have hit a point with the national debt where it's 99.9% of GDP. Meaning, we're almost spending as much as we bring in. And we're going to hit that 100% mark next year, they say, or possibly sooner if we hit a recession. Because, as they say, America is going broke under Trump's policies. Let me read you what David Kelly said. The question I am asked most frequently by investors and financial advisors is, when is the federal debt going to blow up in all of our faces? My usual answer is that while we are going broke, we're going broke slowly. Boy, that's a relief, right? Like, yeah, we're almost out of money, but we're slowly losing all the money, right? It's not like overnight. I mean, we've got months left. Kelly said if the Supreme Court rules Trump's tariffs are illegal, it could, quote, force substantial refunds, raising the whopping $37.8 trillion in debt and its $1.2 trillion in interest. That would, at a minimum, force the administration to go back to the drawing board. Now, that's also something I've talked about in the past that would be absolutely devastating for the economy, but maybe good for the economy, because if the Supreme Court says, nope, Trump can't do the tariffs, the federal government has to give all the money back in refunds, and they only have like a couple weeks to do it. So all the companies that paid tariffs have to get their money back from the federal government. So we've already spent it. They have to come up with it somewhere, and we don't have it. And then it's like this whole crap show of we're out of money, we owe debts we can't pay. And that's when the really horrific things start to happen. Jamie Dimon also said that the rising debt is a big deal. And there are good reasons to believe that the debt will rise even faster than it is now. And then Kelly added, finally, all this assumes no recession and no need for other major spending on domestic or international priorities. So all of this horrible stuff that's happening, America going broke, the debt rising, GDP falling, if nothing bad happens, the bad thing still happens. Okay, that's what they're telling us. Like, as long as everything stays the way it is and we're not in a recession and we don't get involved in a war and there's no humanitarian crisis, as long as everything remains wonderful, we're still going to crash and burn. But if one of these bad things happened, we're going to crash and burn over here a lot faster. So why? Well, part of the reason, of course, is because of the policies of this administration, right? Elon Musk and DOGE burst into Washington, D.C. with Donald Trump earlier this year and said, we're going to cut all the spending and we're going to save all the money. They didn't do any of that. In fact, DOGE ended up costing the federal government $220 billion more than they saved. So we lost hundreds of billions of dollars with DOGE. Then, of course, the one big beautiful bill is going to add $3.4 trillion to the federal debt in the next 10 years, with nothing to show for it for the American people. And that's the problem. We have all this spending, and it's creating debt, and that is bad. But spending that creates debt can also create better GDP if the spending is on the right things. Spending the money to give tax cuts to the wealthy, that doesn't add to GDP. We have 45 years of Republican policy to look back on that proves that. Trickle down has never worked, will never work. But if we spent some of those trillions to give every American free health care, universal health care, if we spent it to improve the environment, That creates more jobs. Creating jobs creates revenue, creates tax revenue, helps local economies. If we did it to send everybody to college that wants to go for no charge, that is going to generate economic activity. The problem is Republicans, when they spend all this money, and yeah, they are the biggest spenders, it doesn't generate anything in return. It just adds to the debt. That's Republican policy. That's what Trump is doing. And as the experts are telling us, America is going broke as a result of it. Thanks for watching, everyone. You know, we're inching closer and closer to 1 million subscribers, and we're aiming to hit that goal before the year closes. So if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please do so, and don't forget to like, comment, and share. Thanks for joining us as we head towards this huge milestone.